What now?
What are you doing?
Nothing. Just talking to Slavko.
Yeah, okay.
So for this week, I was presented with a challenge to make a diorama. Now, I haven't really ever ventured into diorama making aside from like high school projects or whatever. Actually, it was probably like elementary school. Anyways, but adult dioramas, actually that makes it sound like porn. Not adult. So Richard Quiner of the RPG Daily and Colin Brezzi from Crazy Crafter joined together to create a competition for Richard's wedding, which is going to be Lord of the Ring themed, and they needed centerpieces for their wedding. And they came up with the cool idea of having Lord of the Rings themed centerpieces on their tables, and they challenged anyone willing to join, which you can still join. Just check out the Crazy Crafter Discord and see the rules. I got the cool diorama of Gollum's cave and Riddles in the Dark, so that's where Bilbo and Gollum met, and Gollum was trying to eat Bilbo, and I'm sure you know what this is. Anyways, so it had parameters, right? It had to be on a 1-inch base, which had to be 9 inches in diameter. And I had no way of doing that because I'm not freehanding that. So I splurged and I purchased the Shifting Lands circle jig, and amazing. Great. Would suggest it for anybody. That being said, I am going to now show you my journey and my final creation for this competition. And I actually added some new elements, which I'm going to further expand on for future builds, because I think it's really cool and it just adds a touch of so let's jump into it. So let me start out by saying this was really just a fun project, plain and simple. It's always nice to just kind of sit back, try something that you haven't before, and this is what this challenge, project, competition, whatever you want to call it, really brought out of me. And for that, I am thankful to Richard and Colin for allowing me to be a part of this. And like on the Sword and Shield challenge with Michael from Nat One Videos, doing something that I normally wouldn't really brought out the creative juices and really made me think. That being said, it did take me a minute to think about how I would actually go about this. So after a long planning period, which for me, I guess long is anything longer than a couple hours, I stared at a lot of images from the movie. I watched The Hobbit a couple times, especially that scene, to just get a feel for it. And after I got the plan sorted out, I took a deep breath and I said, okay. And then I stabbed at the foam. And this is really where I just went in and started carving, which is something also that's new to me. Michael had some great videos on carving, and it was cool. It forced me to pause sometimes and just think and just rip apart at things, and it was fun. So once I had created a lot of the rock structures, I printed the figures that Richard had sent me for the diorama and started playing around with where I wanted the figures to be in the scene. And when I had that figured out, I continued on the rock work, and I found that cutting into the XPS foam and just ripping it up created a really cool rock texture, and that's what I used for the lake bed. And I really love how it turned out. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the diorama. The next step was the Mod Podge phase, and this really just kind of seals it together and just gives you an idea of what it's going to look like once it's painted. But I really struggled with how I was going to paint this thing. The original idea was to paint it in a blue scale because that scene in the movie, all the rocks have this blue tint about them. But I really didn't know if I should do that for the miniatures also or just the rock work. But ended up, I decided to start with the rock work at least. Looking at the movie, the tops of the rock, it has a blue hue to it. The underside or the sides of the rock had this like khaki, almost yellowish color. And so I started to emulate that in my paint scale. And then halfway through the painting process, I decided, oh, I'm gonna make a plaque for this thing. So I went into Blender, and this is my Blender element for this build, is I created a plaque for Riddles in the Dark, and it just gives it a nice little touch. So then I got back into the painting, and I was like, all right, it needs to be muddied up, and I need to add some depth and layers to the rock. So I started going in with some browns and some tans, and I really wanted to just do something different with my color scheme because I don't know, I'm honestly kind of sick of just seeing gray rock, because when you look at rock, it's not really just gray and it's not one color. So I really had fun with this and just went in with some greens, some yellows, some browns, and honestly, this is my favorite painting work that I've done, especially for rock. I mean, from now on, I want to start, at least with terrain making, I want to start venturing out and using colors for rock instead of just gray. And so anyways, the next step was to seal it because it's going to be a resin pour. And I have never done a resin pour before that hit the edges of the piece. So I used some Mod Podge acrylic sealer, and I did this thing in like 4 or 5 layers because I really wanted to make sure that it was sealed. Once that dried, it was time for the resin pour. I really wish I had recorded everything in this project, especially the resin pour. I tinted the water with some acrylic paint, actually the same blue that I used for the rocks. It had a little bit of bubbling at the beginning, which is expected, and then things just went bad. There was a little bit of a mess up in the corner, and a giant bubble formed under the surface, and the surface had already cured. I couldn't get to it. It was heartbreaking. But I let the piece fully cure, and then I added some water texture with some Woodland Scenics water effects, and it really helped disguise it. Unless you're looking at it from a certain angle, you can't really tell. That was a win. But I really love how the green tones of the rock work underneath really come through, and it just looks really great, at least in my opinion. So Gollum I had already painted, and I was really holding back on painting Bilbo because, I don't know, it was daunting to me. Actually, I think it turned out pretty decent. Okay, not bad. And I am not a mini painter at all. Like at all. So once he was done, it was time to paint the edges of the diorama and get rid of the pink, make sure that it was a nice uniform black. So here's the big surprise for this build. I thought, it's cool. It's got resin, it's got rock work, it's got 3D printed materials, but what will really set this apart?
Let's have another one, huh?
Why don't we have a game of riddles? Yes, just you and me.
Yes. Just us.
30 white horses.
Does it like games? Does it like to...
That's right, folks. It plays the actual riddles from the movie. And I did that with this piece of technology right here. It's called Invite by Voice, at least that's the company, and this is a multiplayer. So this is something that I really want to incorporate into just my general builds. Like, I think it'd be a cool piece to add to anything, any piece of terrain that's a statement piece. So like a boss encounter, something that's just atmospheric. I think it would really add a cool edge to it. And it's pretty simple to use. It's just like a USB drive. You hook it up to your computer with a USB cord, and you just drop files onto it. So each file is going to be a different play. And yeah, that's my cool little touch. So I put the little button on the side here so you can look at it and press the button and it plays music, or it plays sound. Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and more importantly, I really hope you enjoyed the diorama, because I had a lot of fun making it and making it all merge together. And Richard, if you're watching this, thank you for this opportunity, and I really hope you liked the diorama and enjoy it as much as I had enjoyed making it. So congratulations to you and your bride-to-be. If you like this video or you like my build, give it a like. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, help me grow, and let me know in the comments if you learned anything or if you enjoyed this video. Bye, guys.